just want to say I've read your book. I think it's great. I knew Dennis. I directed him in Mad Dog Morgan. I've read your book with great interest, and you did a great job. And
thank you so much.
You might want to know that Dennis's very close friend, Sacha Del Monitu, I don't know whether you came across that name.
Yes, I did.
He was Dennis's assistant. He thought your book was fantastic too.
Oh, that's
he
great
said
to
he
hear.
started reading it and couldn't put it down. That's when I bought it.
That's great to hear. That's wonderful.
So well done. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Delighted you came. That's what that's wonderful. Really appreciate that. Yes, but the internet is wonderful, and was my research assistant really was the internet, because you can find so many. I mean, every day you get more and more articles, and even old newspapers from decades ago that are suddenly digitized,
archived,
and pop up on the internet. It was.
I think this. I mean, it's to me, knowing Dennis and Sacha, it's so far the definitive book, made all the more extraordinary by it's the use of the internet, which you really couldn't do any other way. I mean, you couldn't write this book without the internet, because if there wasn't for the internet, you'd have to call what, I don't know, 30 people or something, but it wouldn't be as extensive as this. There's a huge advantage to this, revealed by your book, I might say.
Wonderful.
It really is. I mean, it's,
I should have had you look at the manuscript before. You could have done a whole blurb for me for the back cover, all the endorsement.
I'll blurb for you anytime.
I would ask you discreetly if you have a card or something, or I can get your number.
Yeah, please.
I would love to call you.
I'll give you my email.
Okay, great. And if you just, thank you.
Yeah.
If you can write just a little bit of something, I can put it on my author's blog, which is on my Amazon
I'll be delighted.
It's wonderful. And I'd love to meet you and speak to you at greater length.
Absolutely, we'll do that. I was just telling my new acquaintance here
That's
about
right.
when I went to Taos to meet Dennis.
Right.
He was editing
the last movie.
Yeah, like the 27th cut or something. And he owned the cinema. There was one cinema in town.
Cortez Theater.
Yeah, and the only movie it played
was the last.
Movie.
It did play. When you were there.
When I was there, it was just playing last movie, and he said, "Come on, we're going to see the last movie."
Or maybe at that point it was only playing at Big Figures 4. He was playing commercial films. The funny thing is, he tried to bake it into an art house, and he would play Buñuel.
Yeah, that's right.
And other things
to Taos Indians, with respect to them, they had no clue what Dennis was doing. L'Âge d'Or and stuff, silent movies, But actually, Dennis said, "By the way, get into your hotel by 12 o'clock because that's when the shooting starts." Because he picked us up in a
little truck.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and we were like, innocent kids, basically, Jeremy and me from Melbourne.
Right,
and the shooting started. It looked like around the shooting with these wild Indians. It was crazy. And I'm thinking, this is Mad Dog. This is perfect. He's perfect, a Mad Dog. And we hid under the bed because, there were bullets flying. It was just a wild place. And we went to a bar earlier, and they'd said, "Check your guns in, please, before you order a drink." And we said, "Well, we don't have any guns. We just flew in." And that's the environment that he lived in.
Yeah,
that's the environment he lived. He shot. Sacha was telling me the other day, because we were reminiscing. He said that he bought a Mayo. I don't know. I've never known how to pronounce Mayo screen print of a Warhol screen print portrait, and Dennis had it in his bedroom. And
he shot 2 holes in it.
He woke up in a acid-induced thing, and he shot Mao in the head twice, and that is now more valuable than the ones that aren't shot by at auction.
Warhol later annotated it for him. He drew 2 circles around the bullet holes, and bullet hole 1, bullet hole 2, and that was one of the biggest earning items when his art was auctioned posthumously.
Right.
His art collection that brought in, I think, something like, I don't know, was that
it was so phenomenal
or something like it was. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, there are many interesting things about Dennis, obviously, but his eye for art ahead of when it becomes
It was.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing, yeah.
He was on the leading edge.
Yeah.
Was that his painting that's on those posters that I saw on the banners? It's the Standard Oil Station by...
That's his photograph, yes. That's Double Standard, his most famous photograph.
Yeah.
Standard Oil Station that sits on kind of triangular corner, and he loved the idea of billboards and other things being unintentional, kind of pop art, symbolic, and he took that photograph, and they later used it at the Pompidou when they had a retrospective of 60s art or California art. And it figured very it's his most iconic, I guess, photograph, that's for sure.
He was amazingly articulate on the history of art, which was just you didn't expect it from.
Well, that's the one thing where he overcame his aversion to the received wisdom of others, because that's the one thing he did pride himself on, his knowledge of art. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, his two personal areas of or favorite schools was abstract expressionism, which he was always pursuing in his own art, his paintings, and even some of his photography. He said he loved the idea of the two-dimensional surfaces of photographs, and he would take photographs of weathered walls with torn posters, and he loved the idea, he said, of reproducing the two-dimensionality of a painting with a photograph.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that I've always noticed is the similarity between many great artists and great actors, and there's a similarity, and the artists are very aware of how they look. They have the vanity of an actor, and it's very interesting that Brando copied Jackson Pollock, who he
I didn't know that.
And Dennis was very aware as an artist of exactly how he looked, even down to shaven, unshaven, and the whole image. And you notice that the whole these guys, Ed Ruscha and everything, are very aware of how they look. The jeans, the whole,
It's perfect. Wonderful serendipity, as you were saying that. There's a book here, Setting Up Your Shots, which recalls what Brooke Hayward said, which is when they first met in New York, and he did not have a camera then, but he averred to her that he was a great photographer, and he would also be a great director, which was his ambition. He was always framing shots just the way it is with his hands, like that. So she said she took out her last $300-some from her bank account and bought him a Nikon, which of course he was omnipresently carried until he started doing Easy Rider. Then he gave up photography, because photography for him, he said, was the rehearsal, as you know, for reading the book, for directing. He thought he'd sort of train himself to be a director through still photography.
Yeah, which he